For the longest time prior to starting carnivore, I had hit a plateau in fact, I started gaining fat weight. I had gotten down to about 9.8% body fat, and I maintained my fitness level. And then over time, I just started increasing the body fat to the point where it got to about 14% or so. And that's when I started getting a little bit concerned as why, but I was on keto at the time, and that's what helped get me into the carnivore space was maybe if I can focus on getting rid of these little measly carbohydrates that I was eating on keto, and then focus on what really mattered, which is the fat and the protein, that it would help. But I still plateaued. Now, having said that, I had achieved fat adaptation, which helped me with my running, and I was able to qualify for the Boston Marathon. But I still couldn't shed those last few percentages of body fat. And what turned me on to Alice and Kevin was that in one of their videos, they had expressed, if you're trying to burn fat, then why are you eating more fat? And that kind of resonated with me. And that's how I got attracted to their way of thinking, because it was the direction that I was headed. Is I get why carnivores in general want to eat more fat. I get that. But if I'm an athlete and I'm already fat adapted, why do I need to eat more fat when I could burn the fat that I have? And so that was the initial challenge. And after meeting Alice and Kevin and focusing on the accountability and having them track my macros so I could focus on what I needed to do, which was my training and training for the Boston Marathon, that they would track my macros for me. It's one less thing I had to do. And so now it's starting to pay off because I'm being more mindful of what it is I'm exactly eating. And instead of being 80-20, which is where I was, and when I plateaued, I'm now at 65-35, and it seems to be working for me because the fat is starting to drop and my activity level hasn't changed. So as far as answering the original question, the challenge is breaking that plateau and getting my body fat level down to my goal. Ultimately, my goal is my racing weight, which is about 10 pounds from where I am now. What was really, really helpful, as I indicated earlier, was the accountability. That's the one thing that I stress in my training, because I do belong to a running community where I document my training every single day, and I do a race report every single day, every single race. And as part of a race, especially for a marathon, which is a little bit longer, to maintain that accountability, there is in all races, there's what's called a participant tracker, where you give your bib number to your friends and family, and then they can track you throughout the entire race. So there's a 5K timing chip, there's a 10K half marathon, and so forth. These are timing chips throughout the race. So it allows your supporters, which is typically your family and friends who support you, they can track it to see how you're doing. And that for me is the accountability. And that's what helped with Alice and Kevin, is that there was that accountability. So now I have to answer not just to myself in regards to what being mindful of my eating. Now I have to track it. I have them track it for me, and then we meet once a week then to talk about where I am and how I'm trending, and how the macros are working out. So it's been great for me. So in terms of the quantitative measures, as an engineer, I'm a huge metrics person. So I track everything, and I even track the mileage on my vehicles. But that's kind of important, because if I see that my mileage is going down, it indicates to me that it must be time for service. So I do the same thing with my physicality and with my macros, and having peaked at 15.8%. And then over the course of the 7 or 8 weeks that Alice and Kevin and I have worked together on this initiative, on this project, I've gotten down to 13.6. So in the course of 8 weeks, I dropped 2% body fat, which is good, which is great. It puts me on the right track now. What Alice and Kevin have helped me in terms of them tracking my macros so that I didn't have to. I'm now starting to develop an intuitive feel for what I need to be eating on a daily basis, so that I don't need to track my macros, because I just really don't have time to do that. Working full time and then training full time, 100 plus, 60 to 100 miles a week, I have time to sleep. And so having them do it has allowed me over the last 7 or 8 weeks develop now an intuitive feel for what my macros should be with a focus on the protein, knowing that the fat will be there. And that's what's been really helpful in terms of the measurements and the metrics. And my performance hasn't suffered. So it's a win-win. And I would definitely recommend Alice and Kevin for whatever their health journeys are. And the whole purpose originally of the carnivore diet as an elimination diet is to eliminate all the possible inflammatory foods that could be contributing to autoimmune issues, metabolic issues, even mental issues. And by eliminating the sugars and the seed oils and the prepackaged foods made in a factory that come in a bag, box, or can, get rid of all that stuff, focus on just the basics of what the carnivore diet was intended to be, and getting rid of these inflammatory foods, you can now focus on, okay, what was it that got me to that point, whatever the autoimmune disease was, whether it was eczema or psoriasis or even gout or Crohn's disease or Hashimoto's, to metabolic issues like diabetes and obesity, to mental issues, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, and so forth. I mean, these are all the things that are intended to be addressed with a carnivore diet by eliminating all the things that got you to that point in the first place. And so working with Alice and Kevin, they provide that guideline for you to keep you on track. And if you do slip and you have these cravings, I haven't had cravings in such a long time, I forgot even the word, but if you have these carbohydrate cravings, if you're carb addicted, or if you have these sugar cravings, they'll help guide you through that and what you can do to help eliminate or at least reduce those cravings, so you're not defaulting back to the things that got you to where you were in the first place, the sugars and all that stuff. So yeah, I would definitely highly recommend them 100%. Well, I mean, without question, in addition to all the aspects that I had mentioned earlier regarding the accountability and keeping you on track, it is the motivation and the coaching and the mentoring. What I particularly like is if you have a client, and the reason why I think Alice and Kevin work so well together is because they have the knowledge together, and they can appeal to the broad spectrum of clients, whether it's male or female. There are some clients who might be more comfortable working with one or the other. And so that being said, if it's a female client who's suffering from female types of issues, that's where Alice would step in. If it's a male client, and let's say you have ED or low T, which is something that I suffered with prior to carnivore, that's something that maybe Kevin can step in and help guide. So they cover a broad spectrum beyond just, for me, being the athletic performance and the fat burning. Fat burning, by the way, and losing weight is just a collateral plus for the carnivore diet. That's not what the carnivore diet is originally intended to do. It's a nice plus, but again, it's originally intended as an elimination diet, so you can get rid of all the things that got you to that inflammatory point in the first place. Oh, and by the way, you just happen to lose weight, and your T-score goes up if you're a male, or ED, and in a female, there are some other things like SIBO and other things that I'm not too familiar with that might, or something that Alice would step in as opposed to Kevin. So it's a sort of a yin yang, nice balance of coaching and mentorship, having a couple working with you one-on-one on whatever issues that you are dealing with. So